$100 shirt on, y'all. I got my $100 shirt on. Let's go. Our special guest is laughing in the background, y'all. Our special guest is laughing in the backstage. Man, let's amen. Guys, we got an awesome show tonight. Thank you to the team. Christy, my producer. Let's go. Ty. Don Kizzle. Hypno, what up? God bless my team, y'all. We have a strong show tonight, y'all. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Shout out to Hayden, fastest Facebook. Y'all didn't let me go live. You know how that goes. Guys, we got an interesting show tonight. We're on heavy troll alert. We take this situation very seriously, and we're not going to allow anybody to come on here and disrespect the magnitude of, this subject. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the one and only Juanita Broaddrick. She's on here, y'all. But again, fair warning, y'all. We're watching the accounts very closely. Please report any trolls to Chrissy, the moderator, and we're going to kick them out, y'all. And then we're going to go on Instagram Live afterwards, and we're going to do an Instagram Live, Juanita's first IG Live, y'all. She's doing it with Nino America. That's going to be something, ain't it? Amen. Shout out my people, y'all. Here we go. Get ready. Without further ado, y'all, I would like to introduce you to the one, the only, Juanita Broaddrick, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Can't.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, now.
Okay, I had it muted. I'm sorry, I had it muted. I'm not a professional. I'm a truck driver. Hey, wow, this is awesome. Hey, this is pretty legendary. I got to tell you, Juanita, real quick, it's an honor to have you. From me and the team, we thank you for being on the show and giving us your time today. We know you're very busy. This is a very serious subject we're going to talk about, and I just thank you real quick. I thank you for joining Nino Radio and allowing to have this time to speak with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nino.
God bless you.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay, I'm here kind of nervous. All right, so real quick.
Don't be nervous.
I'm not. Yeah, you're so nice. You're so nice to me yesterday. Even when I met you in Houston, you were very nice to me, so I thank you for that. Real quick, I just want to get on here and just introduce who you are. I think, to be honest, I was thinking about it last night. You're legendary, right? You're a figure, a public figure that you're in the books, and you have a very interesting story. We're going to showcase it right now. I'd like to have you back on Nino Radio later, throughout here later on to talk about politics, more things that are happening. We might touch on that right now too. But what I want to do right now is I want to introduce you to my audience and to those that might not know the story of who you are and what happened to you in your life. You have a very interesting story. You have a book right here, awesome book. This is a page turner right here, y'all. This right here, I freshened up on it, and I was reading it earlier, and man, it's very, the way it was written. I asked you yesterday how it was written, and you said you wrote it for your son, correct? This book?
Right. But I didn't write it as a book, Nino, in the beginning. When I came back from President Trump's inauguration, I just decided to sit down and write my life history. So my son or my family or whoever in the future would be able to have dates and things that occurred to me from a child on up. So I just sat down at my computer for about 2 or 3 months, and I laughed and I cried, and then I finished my story through the inauguration, and I just punched save, and I just put it back on my computer. And then I thought, well, I'll print that out someday and give it to my son so he'll have it to pass on. And then and then the way it became a book is Nick Lully, who's also on the cover there. He contacted me about doing a podcast, and he said he wanted to do a podcast of my life. And I thought, I've got an outline.
Wow.
So I sent that to him, and it's a quick read. I sent that to him, and he says, oh, no, Juanita, we need to do a book. So I thought, it's not complete, but it's exactly as I wrote it, back then.
Okay.
And so we self-published. Nobody wanted to publish it unless it had to do with Bill Clinton, from Bill Clinton forward. And I thought, to heck with that. My life is worth more than that. My life has been an event, and I'm going to talk about my life and what it was to be a successful young nurse entrepreneur.
Awesome. And real quick, it's an awesome read, everybody. I suggest y'all get it. I have the commentators in here. We're gonna go back to the interview mode, y'all. Everybody's in the comments. Fire. The people are on fire in the comments. Juanita, let's get to it then. What are you most famous for? Can you tell everybody basically, because I want to tell your story right now. What are you most famous for, or what's your what has happened to you in your life that really changed it? Can you let everybody know real quick?
Well, sure. I like to say that I'm most famous for being a mother and a
Amen.
nurse and a nursing home owner. But in 1978, when I was all of those things, I also became a rape victim. And I never knew anyone that had been raped. I'd never taken care of anyone that had been raped as a nurse. And it was an absolutely nightmare to me. I can't even begin to tell you.
And Juanita, who were you raped by?
I was raped by Bill Clinton, and how I met Bill Clinton was in 1978. I worked in his gubernatorial campaign as a volunteer in my county.
Okay.
And I'd work there for 2 or 3 weeks, and my son and I would go around and put up yard signs and hand out, campaign information. And then one day, after I'd been volunteering for a little less than a month, I got a call from the campaign office.
Juanita, real quick, forgive me for cutting you off, but
Yeah.
I would like to start the beginning. But you said you did work for him, correct, in this campaign, correct?
Right, as a volunteer.
Okay. What I want to ask you right now, real quick, is your upbringing. Where were you born at, and how was your upbringing? If you don't mind me, I'm sorry for cutting you off. Please forgive me.
Oh,
But
no, not at all.
I want to start from the
Yeah.
very beginning because you have a very interesting history and from your
Yeah.
book. It has pretty good info in here, and I want to touch
Yeah.
on that real quick. Where were you born at and raised? If you don't mind me, if we could start there. Go ahead.
Sure, I was born in Van Buren, Arkansas. My father had a dry cleaning shop, and my mother also worked with him in the dry cleaning shop. That's where I was raised and went to school. And other than I talk about in the book the abuse by my mom, it was a fun childhood. It was a very wholesome childhood. It was the kind of childhood where you when you were out playing in the evening time, running around playing baseball, skating, doing all these things, then all of a sudden one of your parents would come to the front door and say, scream, for you to come on in, and you'd sit down around a table and you'd all eat together. You'd talk about your day. That's the kind, and it was a safe environment.
Juanita, I asked you yesterday. You said in your book that you paid 20 cents to go to a movie. Is that's what it was?
Yes, except on Saturdays. On Saturdays, if you took a can of goods, like a can of vegetables, a can of anything,
Yeah.
you could get in free with that can of food.
Someone says the good old days. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I certainly would. It was the good old days.
And me and my wife always talk about it. We wish we kind of grew up in them times. We're kind of more conservative and traditional. Back in them days, was there any kind of racism back then?
Well, yes, there was, because we were still very segregated, just like the movie theaters that we went to. The black people had to go around back and go upstairs, to the upstairs area.
Oh, okay.
They never came in contact. We didn't really segregate until I was a junior in high school. And it wasn't a problem for the kids. It's just the parents that raised so much ruckus back then. But if they just let the kids handle it, it would have been okay. I was in that group when Central High and Faubus and all of that, was going on.
Okay, and in your book here, you talk about Carlsbad Caverns, and I want to touch on that because I'm kind of near there. But you said, what did you say about Carlsbad Caverns? Can you touch on that real quick?
Oh, yeah. I was always afraid to go down in caves, and my family, my sister and my dad and my mom, we'd take a vacation every year. And the year we went out to California, we went by Carlsbad Cavern, and the three of them would go in, but I wouldn't. I was just too claustrophobic to go into the cave. So I never got to see inside Carlsbad Caverns.
And so you said that you had a fear. Do you still have that now with darkness and being,
No.
No?
No more. In fact,
Praise
when
God.
I was a little girl, I had to sleep with my light on, and I remember that my mom or my dad would come and turn it off after I went to sleep.
Wow. Okay. I just wanted to touch on that because those are the good old days, and I love to hear about that. And at the time, it was
Yeah.
much more simpler. Would you say it was more simple back then?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it was so
Wow.
simple.
Yeah. Like I said, the book's great. Everybody can pick it up. It's called "You Better Put Some Ice on That," and we'll touch on this in a minute. Y'all would why the title's named that. But it was a really
Yeah.
good book because I like when you talk about your childhood experience, and then you said that you had a little bit of a trauma, I guess, from your mother. She treated you a certain way. Can you touch on your mother, the relationship with your mother?
Yeah. My mother was a very strange person. I always thought that maybe she was bipolar. I have no idea. But she would go along and everything would be good. And then all of a sudden, you would not know what went wrong. And she would just walk up and slap you in the face or grab you by the hair of the head and say terrible things to you. And we never knew when this was going to happen.
Okay. Did you ever figure out what was wrong with her? Was she ever diagnosed with anything or no?
No, no, this went on all of her life. In fact, we were estranged at one part of my life, but when she became infirmed, where she couldn't take care of herself any longer, I took over her care.
Wow. Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
you had a pretty normal childhood, and I think you said back in them days. Well, we'll touch on that, but
yeah.
even the women and the girls they were different, right? There was it was kind of a different time
Right.
with women. Can you touch on that with young girls? How that was? If you can touch on that.
Yeah, as far as young women, you would hear boys or men say terrible things, and very sexual things. And I can remember my grandmother saying, "Oh, Juanita, you can't worry about that. Men will just be men, or boys will just be boys." It was just when you're talking back in the 50s and 60s, and people have seen movies of that, where there was no restraint on a lot of the men's personalities and the way they treated women.
Okay. Um, right quick. Let me see here. I'm trying to see anything else before we head on to the next thing that happened. So can you go ahead and walk us through it? So you grew up, right? Pretty wholesome. Was it kind of somewhat conservative, traditional upbringing? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, my the only political thing I can remember is when I was a child in grade school, and somebody was handing out "I like Ike" buttons. President Eisenhower. But I never really knew. My family wasn't political. And so I never really knew much about politics back then.
Okay. All righty. So let's get to it now. So you grow up, right? And I guess you wanted to be a singer. Can you touch on that? And then you end up going a different route. Can you touch on that real quick?
Yeah, I always thought I was a singer, and I was okay. Like I won the talent scholarship. I mean, the talent event at the Miss Arkansas. I was Miss Van Buren, and that was always my thing was to sing. In fact, uh, for 20 to 30 years, I sang with different bands, different jazz bands. I was the vocalist, and that was fun. But it wasn't for monetary reasons. It was a bunch of professional people like doctors and lawyers and like myself, a nurse and business owner. We formed bands and we would get together and do weddings and things like that. It was fun.
Wow. And so what happened? You wanted to continue in that, in that career, I guess. And
Right,
so can you tell everybody
right.
what happened next? Pretty interesting.
Sure. I went to apply for a vocal scholarship at what was called then College of the Ozarks, and I got a full paid, vocal scholarship, and I was so proud. I got the news in the mail, and my dad says, you're not going to do that." My older sister was a nurse, and he said, "That's just that would be useless. You can't go do that, Juanita." And so to keep from losing in a year, I went ahead and went into nurses training like my sister, thinking, "Oh, I'll do this for a while, but this is not for me." But to find out that he was right, it really was for me.
Wow. Ridge Hickey says, "Can you tell my grandma I'm watching?"
Oh, good.
That's your grandson,
That-
or
yes, yes,
okay?
that's, oh, good. He's watching.
Yeah,
Hi,
he's
Rich.
awesome. Okay, so real quick, so you end up becoming a nurse, correct? And you end up moving up in the field. Can you explain what happens until you end up I guess having your own nursing home? But can you continue and tell us what happens to that point? Or
Sure.
how you get there?
All right. After I graduated from nurses training, I started working for a doctor's clinic in Russellville, Arkansas. My first husband was going to college there. So I would go in and do surgery with them and then go back to the office. And one day a nurse came in and she said, "Are you interested in working in a nursing home?" And I thought, I don't know if I'd like that or not. And then she told me the salary, and I said, yes, I'll check into that because it was such an
Pretty good.
increase in pay. Well, nursing homes were so horrible back then. You didn't want, it's just something, it was just hard to even go into one of them. But the one that I started working for was awesome. It was run by a family. And then I moved from that nursing home to another nursing home in Russellville and opened it and ran it for a while. Then I moved to one in Fort Smith, became the administrator and the director of nursing. And then after that, I decided, I know a better way to do this. I'm going to try to build my own nursing home, which I ended up doing.
Okay, awesome.
And I did that in 1974 and opened a 56-bed nursing home. And when I sold them in 2008, it was 110-bed nursing home and a great nursing home.
Okay, awesome. And I'm bringing that up because that's what brought you to a certain point where you met Bill Clinton, or how did that happen with Bill Clinton?
Right. Like I was saying before, I worked as a volunteer. Some of my friends that were in the local women's club said, "We're going to go down and volunteer for Bill Clinton's campaign. You want to go down?" And I thought, my God, I don't have even an extra hour in the day to go down and do that. But they convinced me to go, and I knew it wouldn't take much of my time. So I did sign up. And in the afternoons when I would leave my office, I would pick up my son. He was 9 years old at the time, and we would go around, put up yard signs, and do things like that. And then about 3 weeks later, I got a call from the campaign office saying, Mr. Clinton's going to be in your area. Can he come by your nursing home on a campaign stop? And I thought, oh, that's great. That would just be a feather in our bonnet, to have him come by. And so we got it all arranged. The day comes, he comes in with all of his entourage. And the picture you see on the front of the book is the picture that we took that day when he came to my nursing home with one of our residents. And then after they took that picture for the newspaper, he comes over to me, and you've heard people say that Bill Clinton is so charismatic and everything. That's true, he was. He walks over, he talks to me, and it's as though I'm the only person in the world. He never loses eye contact with you, and it's like everything you say is so important. So I thought, my God, I'm struggling. I need to tell him that if he becomes governor, that nursing homes need his help, because the per diem rate was so low. It was difficult to even give adequate care. I mean, we couldn't give on the amount of per diem that we were getting from Medicaid and Medicare.
Okay.
So I began to tell him about it. And when I did, he said, he just sort of stopped me. He wouldn't let me finish. He said, "Are you ever in Little Rock?" And I said, yes. In fact, I'll be there in 3 weeks with my director of nursing at a seminar. And that's when he said, "Well, get together with me when you come down there and let's talk about this." And Nino, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have the ear of the probable next governor of Arkansas. Yes, I want to talk to him. So that's what happened when he came to my nursing home.
And Juanita, real quick, Ty had kind of asked a question, but they want to know. I guess you're a Trump supporter now, but what happened then? Like I guess you kind of explained it. You kind of just fell into doing it. But why would you support or help volunteer for a Democrat? I mean, was that even a thought in your mind to do any work for a Democrat?
Oh, they're talking about 1978. No one knew anything about Bill Clinton. I was apolitical.
Okay, so Yeah.
I'd never been involved in politics whatsoever.
So you
And
didn't
I
know.
thought this, yeah,
No, I'm
and
sorry.
we'd seen his advertisements, campaign advertisements on TV, and he looked like a really good candidate, but no one knew about him then.
And I guess back then the Democrats and Republican, I guess were the Democrats a little bit different. They always talk about the Democrats being different back in them days. Was there a big difference with them and Republicans? Was it not the Democrats of today?
Yeah, I have no idea since I was so
Okay.
apolitical. It was just sort of a one-man thing. I liked him and what he was having to say. Listen, I even voted for Obama. So I voted his first time in office. I was so disillusioned the second time around, I didn't even vote. I I contributed over $3,000 to Obama's campaign.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've always been for the man, Nino, more than I have
The party.
the party.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So he ends up getting a hold of you because you move up in life, right? You want to be a singer. You ended up being a nurse. You end up
Yeah.
getting your own practice, right? And you need
Yeah.
help with Medicaid, right? Correct. So he sees you, and my brother Vic says, "What a predator!" Right? He sees you in need. He starts eyeing you
Yeah.
basically, and he wants to meet you. So what? Can you tell us the day that this incident happened when you met with Bill Clinton? Can you start from the beginning of that day? Go ahead.
Sure, be happy to. Um, on April the 24th, 1978, my nurse, Norma Kelsey, it was Norma Rogers then. Norma Rogers and I drive to Little Rock for a seminar the next day. We check into the Camelot Hotel. And the next morning when we get up, I remember that he had told me to call his campaign headquarters. So that's the first thing we do. I call his campaign headquarters, and the young lady answers the phone and says, "Mr. Clinton's not here today." But then she said something really strange. She said, "But he said if you ever call Mrs. Hickey," that was my name at that time, he said for you to call this number. So I call that number, and he answers the phone. And I told him, I said, "We're here, and I brought a bunch of information for you to look over about the nursing homes." And I said, "We can run it over there at noon, and that's when our break is, and go over it with you." And he said, "Oh, Juanita," he said, "I'm not going to be there today." So I thought, oh my, well, at least I can take it on over there. And then he says, "Why don't I just come to your hotel now?" And I thought, wow, that solves everything. That's great. He said, "Where are you?" And I told him the Camelot. And he said, "Okay, we can meet down in the Camelot coffee shop." So I turned to Norma and I say, "You go on to the meeting, and I'll be on to the meeting when I get through in the coffee shop." And he said, "Just wait in your room. I'll call you when I get to the coffee shop." So Norma leaves. I sit in the room waiting for him to call for me to go on down. And then about 20 minutes, who knows how much time it was, I get a phone call. It's Bill Clinton, and he says, "Juanita, I'm down here at the coffee shop." And he said, "It's so crowded, and there's so many
Wow.
people down here, and there's even reporters." He said, "Can we just talk about this and have coffee in your room?" And
Juanita, real quick, so he started from the phone to your hotel, and then from the hotel to your hotel room. I have a question. Do you think that that was his intention the whole time to get in there? Do you think he was already? Do you think he even cared whatsoever about the nursing homes, or do you think he was already?
oh no,
Go ahead.
no, he did not. Not after I suffered the most vicious attack that I did. I guess that's how he that was his ID, how he did things. But no one knew then. But the minute he said, "Can we just have coffee and talk in your room?" Listen, I'll never forget thinking, "Oh my God." I had this sort of a little sick feeling, and I thought, yeah, I'd never been alone with a man in a hotel room that I didn't know. And then you think, this is the Attorney General, and you think, surely this is okay. So I told him, I said, "Okay, I'll order coffee to the room." And he says, "Okay, I'll be up in just a little bit." And it's as though he was waiting in the hallway for those people with the coffee to leave and get out of sight, because as soon as they left, just a few seconds later, is when he knocked on the door.
Juanita, Wow, that's pretty crazy. So he ended up going there to the room. Let me see. I have some other questions before I go. Before we continue, what else do I have here? Um, I'm sorry, I was just thinking about what you're saying right now.
Sure.
Oh, well, okay. Well, other than that, I guess so. He ends up going into your room, correct? And he makes his way to you. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm sorry. You talked about back then a woman having a man at their hotel room. That was very unbecoming. Can you touch on that real quick
Yes.
before we continue? That's what I want to talk about. Can you talk about how back then it was not looked at lightly, for lack of better
Oh,
words?
no. In fact, so many people on Twitter, when I finally began to tell my story, they would say, why did you go to his hotel room? People thought I went up to his hotel room. No way. I would never have planned any type of a meeting like this in my own hotel room with a man. I mean, but here he's the attorney general, and you think, oh, this is okay. He comes to the door, and when I open the door, I get another queasy feeling because he's standing out in the hallway with dark sunglasses on. And that I should have right then thought, this is not right, but I ushered him on in the room and over to the table where all the coffee and all my files were. And he comes in and he immediately takes off his suit coat, lays it across a chair. And that made me a little uneasy. And then he walks to the other end of the table. I begin to pour coffee. And he says, come here a minute. I want to show you something. And so I walk around the table over to where he's standing, and he's pointing down below at a little building that he said was we were up on about the 4th floor, and you look down on the Arkansas River and all these little buildings along there. And he's pointing to a little dilapidated building and said, that's an old 1800 jailhouse. And he says, when I become governor, I want to restore that. And I could have nodded or I could have said something. And I start back around the table. And as I do, he grabs me. And that was a shock. And then as he grabs me, he brings himself down to me and tries to kiss me. And I remember saying, no, that's not going to happen. And then I try to leave where he's standing again. And that's when it gets really, really bad. And Nino, at that point, I'm screaming no, and I'm saying no, and I'm pushing back on him saying no. I do not know how someone didn't hear me. You're talking 8:15 in the morning.
I was going to
and
ask you.
Screaming. Yeah, me screaming, And then when I got really loud is when he started to bite on my upper lip. He would come down and grab my lip with his teeth and start biting on my upper lip. Scared the holy hell out of me. I couldn't think what to do. He's a big man. At that time, I only weighed about 110 pounds, 5'5", not very heavy at all. And he just threw me back on the bed. And I really don't want to talk about that. But it was every time I would start to scream or push on him, he would bite my lip. I'd try to turn my head, and he'd still catch my top lip between his teeth. And then there comes a point when you think he's going to bite my lip off. And my clothes were torn. I was an absolute mess. And after this is all over with, I'm sitting up on the other side of the bed just to get away from him, trying to gather the covers around my bare body where he had ripped my clothes. And I'm sitting up over there crying, just in shock. And he gets up, sort of gathers himself, and walks to the foot of the bed. And the first ridiculous thing that this monster said to me was, don't worry, Juanita, I'm sterile from mumps when I was a boy. And I thought, why in the hell are you trying, what? That just went over my head. Why are you telling me this? And then he notices me crying again. And by that time, he notices the blood running down the corners of my mouth. And my lip is swollen 2 to 3 times the normal size, already bluing. And he puts on his coat and he just sort of motions to my mouth and says, "You'd better put some ice on that." Walks out the door. But I was so glad he had left. I got up immediately and rushed over and locked the door. Because, I thought at that moment, I feared for my life. And I thought, he's Attorney General. He's running for governor of my state. And he just raped me. There's got to be somebody out there that's going to try to come in and get rid of the body. I mean, that's what I felt like, was a body. I can't even begin to tell you. And I went back after I locked the door. I went back and I laid down, and I just, you're just in shock. And I hurt all over, and my mouth was throbbing, and I must have forgot the time. And then about 30, 45 minutes later, I hear a knock on my door. And so I rush over there to the door and look through the peephole, and hell, it's Norma. And I'd forgotten about her. I'd forgotten about where I was. I'd forgotten about everything but my own personal well-being. And I open the door, and she sees me, and she comes in and grabs me. I mean, I hadn't showed up for the meeting. And she comes in and she grabs me and she says, "Oh my God, what happened?" And I start crying again. We go at the foot of the bed, and she said, "Let me go get some ice for your mouth." She comes back, and we put ice on my mouth. And then I start to tell her as best I can, what all had happened to me. And she's sitting there in disbelief. I'm sitting there in disbelief. And she says, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Oh God, Norma, I just want to go home." So that's what we did. She packed up everything, helped me change my clothes, and we gathered up and we left.
Yeah.
I never even went to the meeting.
I'm just sitting here in disgust because it's like last night you told me a little bit again about Bill Clinton, and I can't stand a rapist. I can't stand anybody that hurts women or children. Yeah. And it just boils my blood to hear this. And then this man went on to become the president. Before we move on from this situation, what was running through your head during this day and the rest of the week? How did you feel? Like, did you tell anybody else?
Oh, yeah, of course, the lady that found me. And, when something like that happens to you, you're like a wounded animal. There's other close friends that I had to tell because I wasn't me anymore. I wasn't that same person who left for Little Rock the day before. I was a different human. I'm
going to ask you, I know it's probably a stupid question, but did it change your life like big time from that point on?
Oh, yeah. It made me not trust men hardly at all. Prior to that time, a man or a salesman might come in my office and make sexual remarks or talk about my appearance or say something very vulgar. And I just sort of tried to skirt by it until we got through with whatever he was in my office for. It was hard for me to say anything. From that date forward, I would not allow any man to come to my office that I didn't know. I would have my secretary call me out to the desk out front, and I would talk to him out there. But the worst part, the very worst part, is about 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, Bill Clinton would call my office. And I told my administrator, Bert Young, my assistant administrator, the first time he called, I said, "Tell him I'm not there, that I'm busy or I'm gone." And, she couldn't understand it because this was the man that was going to become governor more than likely. And why did I not want to talk to him? And that was difficult, not to have anything to do with him when he called. But I happened to answer the phone about a week later when she was at lunch. And I answered the phone, with my normal salutation, Brownwood Manor, "Mrs. Hickey, how can I help you?" And this voice comes on that made my blood curdle, and it says, "Hi, this is Bill." He said, "When are you coming back to Little Rock?" and I hung up the phone. I mean, how can you call a rape victim and ask them when they're coming back? It was I don't know. And people say, mate, why didn't I do something? Is that going to be the next question? It's like when Eric Schneiderman, the Attorney General of New York, assaulted those women. And one of the women that he assaulted came forward with the press, and her comment was, what do you do when your abuser is the highest law enforcement officer in your state? What do you do? And of course, we know that the next day he resigned. But what do you do? And also, as Attorney General, Bill Clinton regulated my nursing home. He investigated complaints. He could have shut me down at a moment's notice. But most of all, and I keep talking about this, but I was ashamed. I thought it was my fault. What did I not see? I mean, I had come up in that era where you can't do this, or it's your fault, or you can't do this, or it's the woman's fault. And I kept thinking, why did I not know? I was so ashamed.
Juanita, did he ever come through to help you, or what happened with the whole nursing home situation? Was that just a big lie, or what happened there?
Oh yeah, complete lie. No. That's when people said, well, how did you become successful after that? How did you become and open another nursing home? How did you do it? How did you cope? The only thing I can tell you is many times I would wake up in the middle of the night, be having a panic attack, be feeling that horrible dark cloud coming over me, and I would just get up and go to work. And I'd go out to my office and work, and then I would go out on the floor, see how the patients are doing. And that became a pattern with me, to be very involved in my nursing home and know what's good for the patients and what's not good for the patients and how we can better take care of them. When you're taking care of someone that has problems worse than yours, that was my therapy.
Okay. I guess I wanted to I'll ask you now. I kind of could have went to the end, but do you think this whole situation, did it make you stronger in life? I'm not trying to disregard the pain you went through, but do you think this made you a stronger person?
Yeah. Especially in the last 6 years, I would say, more so than back then. I went into the woodwork, Nino. I absolutely wanted nothing to do with him. And then all of a sudden in 1984, I get a letter through congratulating me on having the best nursing home care in the state. They gave awards for about 5 years, the Department of Human Services. And I get this letter through from the office of the governor congratulating me on having the #1 nursing home for care in the state of Arkansas. And at the bottom of it is scrawled, I admire you very much, Bill, in his handwriting. And I looked at that and I thought, you egotistical bastard. How could you even put something? And then I read it as, thank you for keeping quiet. I don't know.
Wow. Okay, let me ask you this. Did you ever run across him in person from that time on going forward?
Yes. Many times he would speak at state nursing home meetings. And when we would see him come in, we would leave. But I would see him from a distance, maybe 2 or 3 times that he spoke while I had my nursing homes. But then in 1991, I was back in Little Rock with the same nurse and her sister, Norma Kelsey, Norma Rogers, and Jean Darden. And we were down at a seminar. And somebody comes to the door, some gentleman, and said, I was Broaddrick by that time. And he said, Mrs. Broaddrick is wanted in the hall. So I worried that it's maybe an emergency from home. And I get up and go out. And then later the nurses follow me out too. And the man points down around by an elevator. And he said, you're needed down there. But I couldn't see anybody. So I walked down there. And as I went around the corner by the elevator, there stands Bill Clinton with 2 of his Arkansas state policemen. And I just stopped in my tracks when I went around that corner and saw him. And then, because I was fixing to turn and go the other way, it was frightening. I hadn't seen him. I hadn't talked to him. And so he rushes over to me and he says, I just want to tell you how sorry I am for everything. He says, I'm not that man anymore. He said, I'm a changed man. He said, I'm a family man now, Juanita. He said, I would never do anything like that again. And I'm standing there thinking, what on earth is going on? And I just sort of looked at him. And by that time I was crying. And I said, you go to hell. And I turned and walked off. And when I got back to the nurses, they said, what did he want? And I said, he was apologizing. And we were all in complete disbelief. And I couldn't believe it was happening. And then I got to thinking, did he mean it? Of course he didn't mean it. He announced he was running for president 2 weeks later.
Juanita, let me ask you this. Speaking of him right now, what was the timeline? He was running for governor. What was he when he raped you? What was he running for? And
Governor.
Was he married to Hillary at the time?
Oh yes, yeah.
Do you think that Do you think she knew about a lot of this stuff? What he was doing?
Oh, I have no doubt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Juanita, did Norma ever confirm your story? Did she ever? What is her stance?
Oh, yeah. Norma and all the other five people did too when I did NBC Dateline in 1999.
Okay, that's what I want to get to next. So what happened when you find, because you've only been talking about this for a couple of years, right? This is not...
Right.
When did you actually go public about this? Because you went public, but you haven't spoken to people like me just recently. But can you explain when you went public? Did you have doubts of going public? You didn't want to go public? Can you explain that part?
Oh, yeah. After all of that, I just concentrated on my nursing homes and eventually, opened up a handicap facility for mentally retarded and physically handicapped children. And I just went on with my life. Then about in 1997, I thought about coming forward in 92. Then I saw what they did to Jennifer Flowers. I saw what they did to Paula Jones. I saw what they did to Kathleen Willey and those other two women that were just incidental. Elizabeth Ward Grayson, I believe was her name, was the Miss Arkansas that eventually told that he had bitten her lip and everything too. But I thought, the media's trashing these ladies. I'm happy, I'm content, and I was a coward. I was not coming forward. Then in 1997, I have, rumors had been rampant. When you tell 5 people, it's going to dwindle down.
Okay.
Maybe once a year I'd get a phone call from someone in the media, a journalist, and they were saying, we've heard some rumors that Bill Clinton assaulted you, and I would just hang up the phone. And it would worry me for a while, then I'd get on back to my life. Then in 1997, I had a knock at my front door, and I went out on the porch. It was this nice-looking couple. Their name was Rick and Beverly Lambert. And I walked out on the porch to talk to them. In fact, the conversation is on the internet. But I walked out on the porch to talk to them, and they told me that they were working for the Paula Jones case. And they were interested in interviewing any other people that had been sexually assaulted by Bill Clinton.
And who's Paula Jones? Can you give a quick summary of who she is?
She was the state worker that worked at the state level that Bill Clinton exposed and did some horrible things to her. He had asked one of his guards to get her from a meeting she was at downstairs and bring her up to his hotel room. And she thought it was maybe about a job or something. She willingly went up there, and then he exposed himself and said some really bad things to her. She's the one that got the $850,000 settlement.
Okay. During
the Jones versus Clinton. And so anyway, they worked for Jones attorneys. Rick and Beverly Lambert are the parents of Miranda Lambert, the country singer. You know who Miranda Lambert is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And when she was a young girl, they had this investigative firm. Anyway, they were on my front porch saying, you need to come forward. We've heard this. And I said, listen, that was a long time ago. You're not going to drag me back into that. That's too horrible. I'm not going to relive it. But it was about a 20-minute conversation, but that's the gist of it. And I thought when they left, they understood, don't, don't include me in this. So I just didn't think any more about it till about a month later when I found out I was going to be deposed in the Paula Jones suit against Bill Clinton as Jane Doe number 5. I would never have come forward. This is what outed me. Okay, then you have me here being outed as Jane Doe number 5, although few people didn't know who Jane Doe number 5 was. Then I get deposed by them. I go there and I'm angry. I'm mad as hell. I couldn't believe that they had gone back and done that to me. But I walked right straight in there and said nothing happened. And I was not about to let them drag me into this. And I felt very victorious when I left that. I just sort of glared at those lawyers and I just walked right out that door because I didn't say what they were wanting me to say. I didn't want involved in it. I didn't. And then I thought, well, that's it. That's over. Then I find out that I was recorded by the Lamberts when they were on my front porch that day.
Wow. Okay.
And those attorneys sent that recording to Ken Starr during the impeachment.
Who's Ken Starr? I always hear that name.
He's the counsel for the impeachment of Bill Clinton.
Is he Republican or Democrat or neither?
I don't remember. I think he might have been a Republican.
Okay.
But anyway, then they decided to depose me. And I think, oh my God. And my son, who's an attorney, came over to my home that day whenever we found out that I was going to be deposed by Ken Starr and told me, he said, Mom, I had told him when he was about 18 or 19. And he said, Mom, you've got to come forward. You just don't have any choice. He said, Paula Jones was a civil case. He said, this is a federal case and this is serious. And so I decided, yeah, it's time to come forward. And Ken Starr's people were very courteous to me, very nice. And people say, well, he didn't believe her. He discredited her. That has nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with him telling lies, and all of that they were saying. I'd not been bought off or anything like that. Hadn't been threatened.
And it's interesting because it's not like you came out against Bill Clinton to make a book or to sell anything. You basically got subpoenaed, for lack of better words, and you had to go give your account, correct? So what happened at that point? You went ahead and testified, or I don't know if I'm using the right lingo. Continue.
Yeah, I went ahead and testified. But of course, everybody knew back then, that Bill Clinton was not going to be removed from office. My deposition.
I'm sorry. What was he? Was he already president, or what was he at that point?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It was his last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He had 1 year to go. Yeah. And the Democrats wanted my deposition with Ken Starr in the impeachment of Bill Clinton is still sealed with all the impeachment stuff that has not been released yet.
Why is that?
But have no idea. We've tried to get it, but no, you can't get it. It's still sealed. And not one Democrat. Now, the Congress people, the people that were going to be voting on Bill Clinton, could go and read my deposition, but not one Democrat did. All the Republicans did, but not one Democrat would read.
And if they would have read it, that would have brought your case to light, or it would have done something for you, correct?
Yeah, but nobody wanted to hear. It's just like when Henry Hyde, was having the impeachment committee gathering and everything. He was telling, now this is in Dave Schipper's book, Sellout. And Henry Hyde was saying, we have this woman from Arkansas that has this horrible story. We're not going to bring her in to testify, but you owe it to yourself to just go in there and read her deposition with Ken Starr. And that's when one of the others, the Democrats, stood up and said, listen, Henry, I don't care if he raped her, got up and shot her dead, you'll never get the votes. That was said in that impeachment committee.
They kind of sound the same from the Democrats of old to today, where they don't believe the women when it makes them look bad. They're supposed to be
Right.
the party of Me Too. Okay, so you went ahead and you said what happened. Everybody found out that this happened, right? That you were raped by him. That was your accusation, right? That's what you accused him of.
Yes.
What happened
Yes.
then? What happened then?
Okay, I had been having an ongoing conversation with Lisa Myers with NBC Dateline for about 10 months or so. And I kept telling her, no, I can't come forward. No, I can't come forward. And then finally she says, well, we just got your name, so we know that your name's going to be out there everywhere now. She said, Juanita, you need to go ahead and tell your story your way, as it really happened, before they start twisting and turning it every direction.
Juanita,
So
why were you so reluctant to tell anybody at that point? Why didn't you want to tell anybody? It's the
it
shame,
was
or
just hard. I mean, yeah, it's just why didn't why I didn't have the courage to come forward when he ran for president? Why why I couldn't do it? Why it was just something I couldn't do. I couldn't face it. It just brought up too much pain.
I agree. I mean, most of us don't want to throw the trash. I mean, to go out there,
Yeah,
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 I can see it in my brain. Like, we don't even want to do certain things that we should do, and to go and be public
yeah,
figure on something that's, it's just shameful. A sexual act, that's between a man and a woman that are married. What I say, right? But and then for this to be brought up, it's pretty. It's pretty. It's pretty. I want to say. I guess it's kind of embarrassing. To be honest, and
right,
I'm not trying to put you down, but I can understand why you would
yeah.
have guilt or shame about it. So anyway, so you go on the interview and you do the interview. Is that right?
Right. I do the interview. When they come to tape it on January the 9th, 1999, they tell me that it's going to run during the impeachment. That's why Lisa was trying to get me to do it and do it during the impeachment so it would be out there and aired. Well, it's just like when Ronan Farrow tried to get NBC to do anything about Weinstein. NBC wouldn't do anything about my interview. They
Wow.
held it and they held it and they held it until after the impeachment was over, and they ran it opposite about 6 or 8 weeks later, opposite the Grammys. Yeah.
That sounds just like today, the fake
Yeah.
news. And then they run it
Yes.
opposite of the Grammys when no one's
Right.
probably going to pay attention, right?
Right. Right.
Okay, so what happens after that? Your life changed basically. This when you became like I want to say like a star, but did
No.
this okay, what happened
No.
next? Go
No.
ahead.
No. No. I had lots of people that had these little things that they formed, like I Believe Juanita and all that, and we'd have little get-togethers, and it was very helpful. But no, I wanted nothing to do. The media destroyed me after I went on Dateline.
Wow.
They absolutely called me everything in the book. The only people that really supported me was Fox News, and they did. I remember when Hume, what's his name? His first name. Anyway, they would wear these little buttons on Fox News, and it said "Free Lisa Myers." What they meant were run the interview now.
Wow.
So there was some support, but no, I just went back into the woodwork. I did nothing else after that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
from that point, because I got some little more things to talk about. Everybody, we're gonna do the questions on Instagram. We're gonna do an Instagram live, her first live on Instagram with Nino America. But
Yeah.
what happened? What happened next? I want to get to here where your Twitter blew up. I mean, you're all over everywhere. You have over 500,000,
Yeah.
about almost 500,000 followers. So what happened
Yeah.
next? Something happened,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I had always had such harsh feelings about the Clintons, never wanted anything to do with them. And then all of a sudden one day I'm watching TV and I see Hillary Clinton, and she's standing up there talking to a women's college saying this statement. I can't remember if I remember exactly, but she said, all sexual assault victims should come forward and be heard and be believed. We're with you. And I thought, my God, did I hear that right? Did that crazy woman really have the gall to say that after what she did on her, and when she was first lady, trying to absolutely destroy the women that came forward? And I thought, I can't be quiet any longer. I've got to do something. So that's when I thought, okay, she tweeted this too. I don't know how to use Twitter, but my grandson Ridge knows everything, even though he was about 12. So I called him and I said,
Okay.
you need to teach Nana
Okay.
Twitter.
So this where it happens. Get ready, y'all. This is pretty interesting. This is when she goes, I would say goes viral for lack of better words. Go ahead, Juanita. This is the good.
Okay.
This is pretty good.
And I didn't tell him what I was going to tweet or anything, but he had a Mac phone, an iPhone and all that. So his parents did tell him later.
What year was this?
This was 2016.
Oh, so you went kind of quiet this whole time.
Oh, yeah.
From the public view. I'm pretty sure politicians knew and they knew. But so in 2016,
yeah.
So in 2016, what did you do, Juanita? Tell everybody.
Okay, I had him come over and show me because I couldn't really get a tweet to go through.
Okay.
And so he showed me everything, and he says, "Have you got it, Nana?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I do." So he went home, and then the next morning I get up and I go on my Twitter, and I think, okay, I think I've got this. And so I go on there and I type out, I was 35 years old when Bill Clinton, the Arkansas Attorney General, raped me and Hillary tried to silence me. I'm now 73 and it never goes away. And I looked at that, Nino, and I thought, well, it looks okay. I haven't said anything that I didn't say 16 years ago. It's all the truth. I've told it before. And I click tweet, and all hell broke loose. I mean, within 30 seconds, my phone was ringing off the wall. My son's law office phone was ringing off the wall. I had no idea the power of Twitter.
30
I had
seconds?
No idea. Yes. I had no idea. And I was unknown, at that. Yeah, it was amazing. Reporter after reporter after reporter leaving messages on my answering unit. But about the third one that called was my son. And he said, "Mom, what did you do?" I said, "I have no idea." Because I didn't understand that power. And of course it just went up from there.
And then you went viral, and here you are now,
Yeah.
correct? And you've been speaking out ever since, right?
Yes.
I got a question now.
Yeah.
Why are you still alive?
Oh, I have no idea.
I mean,
many people ask me that.
Yeah, besides the grace of God, amen. I'm just saying, usually anyone that goes against the Clintons, even in the comments are saying that Nino didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
Basically, why are you still alive? Can you give us your point of view? Because I think you'd be a big target.
Yeah, my husband was very protective over me at that time. I would find people following me, and the minute I did, I'd call someone or go someplace else, But we lived out, and you had to have a combination to get into my gate. It was an electronic gate. My husband was a cowboy. There was always cowboys around. And my family and everybody was extremely protective over me.
Once that happened, they really the security alert kind of went up. Juanita,
Yeah.
I got a question. I've heard some really crazy things about the Clintons. I've heard they were into drugs, into drug rings, and all kinds of stuff in their little town. Was there a reputation with Bill Clinton that he was part of some? I'm not saying a mafia, but I've always heard some outlandish claims that they were a part of a lot of murders. And I'm not saying that this is true, but I'm just saying, were there ever rumors, or did they have a certain kind of a reputation, the Clintons?
Oh, yeah, in Arkansas, they definitely did. As far as the drug goes, there's been so many movies made about that. And I'm not going to say the name, but I did speak to one of the women who had affairs with Bill Clinton, who turned against him later. But she said back at the time that happened to me, that he was heavy into drugs, especially cocaine. She says, "Haven't you ever noticed the big red nose that he always had?" And yeah, you think about it, he always did have a big red nose. And a lot of the cartoons, he almost looks like a clown with the drawings of him. But I have no idea if that had anything to do with what he did to me or not.
And of course, has he ever apologized?
Yeah, he did on 1991. But that's when I told him to go to hell.
Oh, okay, yeah, that time. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot about that part.
No.
Yeah, that's when he told you in there, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But
Bill
I guess
Clinton-
publicly or nothing like that, of course, he's not going to admit nothing, right? He's going to keep denying.
My name has never come across his lips when anybody asked him a question.
Wow.
The only person was Sam Donaldson. After he was acquitted in the impeachment, not guilty, Sam Donaldson stood up and asked him a question about me, at his post-impeachment press conference, and asked him about these things. And Bill Clinton's remark was, Sam, I'm hired for the people of this country, and it's time for me to get back to the work I was hired for. That was it.
Typical politician. Real quick, Juanita, before we move on to Trump, real quick, I just want to touch this. Anybody watching that wants to ask questions, we're going to do Instagram Live after, and you can ask questions, and we'll answer them there. Let me see here. Will you ever forgive Bill Clinton?
No. This man shows no remorse for anything he's done. Absolutely never. I'm sorry. People say, well, if you'll just forgive him and pray about it. I pray, but I don't pray. But Bill Clinton's not included in my prayers. No, I have not forgiven him.
And you will never forgive him?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's understandable. I mean, I do not like rapists, and I'm going to leave it at that. Another question here. What do you want of Bill Clinton right now? Do you want him in jail? Do you want any kind of, revenge, or what do you think should happen to him?
Oh, what I think should happen to him is, if this is ever brought to conclusion, I would like to see him stripped of every past president benefit that he has, which is in the millions that we pay for his Secret Service, for his office, for all of these things that he gets taxpayer money for his retirement as a president. I'd like to see those stripped completely.
And, do you think he'll ever be held accountable for any of these things he's done to anybody?
No. They're too powerful. The
Someone
Clintons,
said that.
even though, they're still too powerful. And their fingers go all the way down into the deep state, into Congress. They know too much about all of those people that they could turn on. Nothing's ever going to happen to him.
Amen. Okay, before we go to Trump, I want to ask, let me see, that's about it then about him. Anything you want to, before we move on to Trump, would you like to, I guess, this made you stronger, you said that, but is there anything you want to add about this whole situation with Bill Clinton before we move on to the next subject?
Yeah, there's just one thing. When he was out advertising his book that he wrote with James Patterson, The President is Missing, or something like that, he was doing an interview with Judy Woodruff. And Judy Woodruff asked him about all of these accusations. I don't remember if she used my name, but he was asking her about this. And his comment was, Judy, the things you can do, the norms have changed about the things you can do to somebody against their will. The norms have changed.
What does that mean?
That means you couldn't do it now, but you could do it back then, I guess. He just said the norms have changed. And and the press did not do anything to him when he said that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, there it is, her testimony about Bill Clinton, y'all. And again, I want to have her back to touch about more stuff because, real quick, I want to touch on these things now. You are a Twitter savage. And people, and you told me about that yesterday. Someone said you're real nice. You're very nice, but on Twitter, I even saw earlier you said F Biden. You're not getting the jab. So I was like, heck yeah, we're my crew. We are anti-V. I don't want to say we don't say the word here because YouTube will censor us. But we're very outspoken against that. We're for medical freedom. But you are very outspoken on Twitter, and you have a huge following. Can you touch on your Twitter feed and how you are a Twitter savage?
I tweet probably sometimes things that I shouldn't, but it's how I feel.
Okay.
I study the news all the time, and I say what a 78-year-old angry woman says, about how America is being destroyed. I just can't hold it. And I'm just me, now in person, I'm a little bit nicer, but on Twitter, I had somebody come in from the BBC to interview me, and he said, He said, you're really very nice. You're nothing like you are on Twitter. And I thought, okay, that's a compliment.
Yeah, I love your tweets. Your tweets go viral. They're very to the point. I'm very blunt and based. They call it based. That means like just savage and just to the point, and I really appreciate it. Let me see here. Can you talk about when Trump invited you? Or let me ask you real quick. What are your thoughts about President Trump?
Oh, I love the man. I wish he was back right now. It's a shame, And we thought there for a while, well, maybe there's a chance, that he'll come back. Right now, I don't know. I'm heartsick, that he's not president. We wouldn't have any of this going on right now.
I agree.
No.
And then people are telling me, Trump wanted to pull out of Afghanistan. I agree, but I'm pretty sure he would have did it a little bit more better than leaving these people with our tax-funded equipment and weapons and machinery. I mean, come on. And then Pelosi says, I just had the clip earlier that she says, this is what happens when you pull out of a war. Okay, so we got Americans over there. We got Americans over there just left there and then equipment there. Like, it's a big old mess. But anyways, I digress. So what happened real quick? Trump brought you one of the most savagest moves he ever made. Can you talk about when Trump got a hold of you and he brought you to a certain event? Go ahead.
Sure. I was in Washington, D.C. doing a 2-day interview with Breitbart, and we were at the old Watergate. It was so neat. It was Paula Jones and Kathleen Willey and myself. And we did separate interviews, and then we did interviews together. Well, I was on a plane going home, and I hadn't turned my phone off the night before the second debate. And Steve Bannon's people were on the phone, and they called me, and they said, President Trump would like to have you at the debate tomorrow night. And I said, oh, goodness, I'm on my way to Arkansas. And they said, well, we want you to come. We'll take care of everything. We'll make the arrangements. And I thought, I think I will. Okay. So I got home that night, and they told me to dress very incognito, wear a cap if I could, sunglasses. Okay. But they did not want me for any reporters or anything to see me. So I did. And they said there'll be a gentleman at the airport, and he'll be holding up a sign, Jane Morgan. He said, that's who you're to go to. So I get off the airport in St. Louis, airplane, and I see this man holding the sign up with his little chauffeur outfit on and everything. So I walk over to him and I say, hi, I'm Jane Morgan. And he said, sure you are. Let's go. Anyway, they hit us all day long. It was crazy. They said you're not to leave your room at all. We've got food here. We've got anything that you need, but you cannot leave this room. And a lady stayed there with me, I guess, to guard me, to make sure I didn't, because the reporters were staying everywhere around us. So then it finally got time to go meet President Trump before the debate.
You got to meet him?
Yeah. Oh, it was awesome.
How is he in person?
Oh, Nino, he's so soft spoken and sweet. He's like a teddy bear.
Aww.
Yeah, he's just awesome. We go to his hotel, and he comes in, shakes our hands, thanks us for being there, and just had a delightful talk with him. And then Steve Bannon says, okay, it's time to leave. Let's go through this door here. And so we thought we were going back down to get in the limousine thing and go to the debate. And we walk through these double doors and walk into this room, and there's a table there, and it's got 5 chairs at it. And I turned to Kathleen and I said, are we going to eat? It looked like it was going to be set for us to go in there and eat something. So we walk in, and Steve Bannon tells us where to sit, and we all sit down. They said, leave the center chair for President Trump, candidate Trump. And so we sat there and we wait, and in a few minutes, Donald Trump walks in, sits down between us, and he says, okay, let them in. We had no idea we were going to be in a press conference. And, whether it was by choice or by design or what, I don't know. I'd do it all again without any question, because I supported the man so much. But they opened those doors, and here comes about 20 cameras and reporters in that door. And my God, they get in that door, and here's these 4 victims sitting in here at this table with Donald Trump, Bill Clinton victims. And they come in, and they had sort of like a deer in the headlight look, and we did too. We thought, what is going on? So they come in and get situated, and there's just a rumble, through all of them. And then Donald Trump says, these nice ladies have something they'd like to say to you. And I thought, say to you? And so thank God they started down on the other end with Paula Jones, and I had a moment to think. But of course we wouldn't have been there if we didn't support him. That would have been ludicrous. And then we all had our say, and he says thank you, and then they all start firing questions at him, and they just usher him back out. He doesn't talk to them at all. They thought they were coming in to talk to him.
Wow, that's sad. I got to give it to him.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened? Did you see Bill there? He brought y'all out, correct, to the debate, right?
Oh, yeah. They brought us, we were in the car right behind President Trump, and it was so neat. I took a video of it for my grandson to show him, as we were going down this highway with no cars on it and state policemen everywhere. But anyway, when we got there and walked in, we walked by Bill Clinton, going down the aisle to our back seats in the back. We were in the back. And that photograph that you see of Bill Clinton with his eyes all bugged out and looking to the side like that, that was taken when we walked in the building because they didn't know we were going to be there. Yeah. Yeah, that's an iconic photo now. And we were able to watch the debate. It was absolutely thrilling.
Wow. And he was there with all tripped out pervert Bill Clinton. Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
So I guess what's your takes on Trump? He's a nice man.
Yes, very nice. Yeah. He's a man. And when he said those things with Hollywood access, I believed everything he said, that it was locker room talk. He's just a man. I do not believe he's ever sexually assaulted anyone. I do not believe he's ever raped anyone. I cannot believe those stories that they try to tell about him.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. So there it is, y'all. That's let me see if I have anything else. I think that's about it for that right now. I guess we're gonna go ahead and get ready to move on to Instagram. Can you tell everybody about where they can follow you on social media? You're just on Twitter, or what has happened recently?
Okay. Yeah, my grandson set me up some different platforms today. Ridge has set me up on YouTube and on Instagram, and then he'll eventually do TikTok. And we're going to start having a lot of fun. We're going to set up some videos and a lot of information.
Juanita, everybody's here saying thank you for sharing your story. We know it's pretty difficult. Has it become easier as the days go to tell people this or to talk about it?
Yeah, because I'd only talked about it one time on TV and cried like a baby, back on the Dateline. And then about 2.5 years ago, I spoke to my first women's group. It was a Republican group in Newport Beach. And I got to the point to talk about what had happened to me, and I started crying. I couldn't help it. And I had to gather myself and take a deep breath and start all over again. But those women were so nice and they understood. But it gets easier each time.
Juanita, can you give any a message to anybody that's been a victim of rape or some kind of sexual assault? Can you give a message to them right now?
Oh yeah, it's a horrible thing. It's something, and you feel so all alone because it happened to just you. So the best thing that you can do after the rape is to get yourself out of harm's way. That's the most important thing. And then as soon as you can, of course, go to the hospital. If you don't want to go to the hospital and do the rape kit, find someone you can trust and tell them what happened and write down everything that happened to you.
And what happens? Does it get easier as time goes by? How do you cope with something like this?
Now, I don't know. There's if I sat and dwelled on what had happened to me, I would probably start crying right now. But I try not to think about the actual event. I just try to be more positive. And like I said, the only thing that really helped me was the business that I was in, helping others, others less fortunate. It's just the age too. If it's a child, my God, I can't imagine, how there are professionals for children like that. But if you're an adult and it happens, you just have to lean on your family and your friends and your minister or your priest or someone like that.
Okay, awesome. Well, Juanita, we thank you for being on Nino Radio. Everybody, we're fixing to jump on Instagram, and we're going to take questions there live. It's going to be your first Instagram live, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I got to figure out how to get on it.
Well, we're going to help you. But anyways, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, YouTube land, thank you for watching. I just wanted to get on here. Again, I would like to have you back to talk about current events. You have a pretty, I like the way you put things, especially on Twitter. But I wanted everybody to hear your story, because when you told me in Houston, I never knew this. And I'm sure a lot of people have never heard this, especially with you just coming out in 2016. That's not too far back. You didn't spend your whole life bashing the man, or not bashing or exposing the man, right? Basically to a broad audience. Now, I think your message needs to be heard, because I don't like the Clintons. I don't like Democrats. I don't like some Republicans. And I especially don't like the Clintons. And I don't like Biden. It's Trump 2020, and it's Trump forever over here, right? So thank you for sharing it. Juanita, God bless you. Everybody watching, the comments are going crazy. I'm going to put the comments up here. Y'all can, if y'all want to give a message, y'all can tell her right now in the comments. We appreciate you coming on. And thank you, Juanita. We will see you on Instagram.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye.